You're raised as an athlete to fight back. So why all of a sudden when you retire do you stop the good fight?
This is Finding Center with Nick Hardwick.
Yeah, it's micronutrient profile is amazing on meats. And that's also something that has been shown to be higher in free range meats. All that good mojo is higher in the free range products. But you're looking at vitamin B, vitamin K, niacin, zinc, iron. Those are the really key ones. And then also, of course, lots of protein, and not just the actual protein of the lean muscle fibers is one thing, but collagen protein has been increasingly getting a lot of attention in the health world because it's so great for joint health and gut health. And that's something that only comes from animals and comes from their joints and their stomach lining, right? And their skin and hides. So those are some other, parts of it. I do think that collagen is such a magical product, and people have had it's probably the product in my repertoire at Belcampo where we have more testimonials from people using our bone broth than any other product. Like people are using, eating our pork. They're like, wow, my recipes taste so much better.
Right.
Bone broth, the people who are like, oh my God, like I had Crohn's disease and now I can eat whatever because I started using your product. And of course there are ways to get collagen. A lot of people supplement with collagen, and that collagen, there's a number of different types of collagen, and animals have them all together. But when you're taking a supplement, you should be cautious about which type you are taking.
Life, it is such a wonderful experience, and without health, we can't enjoy all that it has to offer. If you haven't heard, our family has a new supplement line with our name on it. We are so proud. Check us out at hardwick.life. It's like hardwick.com, but instead of .com, it's .life. We have been taking these exact pharmaceutical-grade supplements for several years now. We are waiting on our shipping and fulfillment process to get up to the quality and the standard that we expect and that you expect, and now it's on point, and we can't wait for you to try. We love the enhanced immunity they offer all of us. I put my body through the ringer with football. I love knowing that I'm doing everything in my power today to ensure that I'm giving myself the best chance possible to live that fulfilling life along with my family. Check out these pharmaceutical-grade products and new family-friendly recipes posted all the time, both on our Instagram and online at hardwick.life. Hardwick.life, foundational elements for a fulfilled life. Check them out. You guys know this. If you follow my stories on Instagram at Nick Hardwick, you better be following along. What are you doing? Then you already know I post almost every meal that I eat. I do that to show that health, maintaining a fit and active body and lifestyle, it's not a trick. It's just consistently making really good choices. One choice I've made almost every single morning since 2017 when this company was founded, BUBS Naturals, collagen protein, and MCT oil powder. One way or another, I've used them religiously almost daily. I swear by it. You're going to love it. Super good. No other collagen brand can claim to be 100% NSF certified. If you are in the San Diego area, products are now available at all Barron's Markets. Stop in, pick some up today. See how conveniently health can fit into your life. I love it in a coffee. I also love it. I make this really nice green tea, a matcha green tea latte. It is absolutely fabulous. Put a little protein in there, a little MCT oil, and then they got this little whisk stick. It's perfect. If you don't have a Barron's near you or you don't want to go to the store right now, totally get it. Order it online at bubsnaturals.com. You can also check out their blog for creative recipes at bubsnaturals.com. Use the code, check this out. They're up in the ante, Hardwick20, Hardwick20 for 20% off your order. Hey, family. Welcome back to the Finding Center podcast. I hope today you in good spirits and, more importantly, good health. And as you know, a lot of the time, our health really does dictate our spirits. We had a podcast recently featuring Dr. Mel Davis, who wrote a well-researched paper called The Game Unchanged, a comprehensive critique of the Game Changers film. I hope you got a chance to listen to that one. It was pretty awesome. I refused to call it a documentary because it was so slanted. Nonetheless, I'm sure it left lots of you with questions, or hopefully answered a lot of questions, but really questions about the truth behind the film and questions about your own nutritional practices. of all the takeaways from the film, it didn't have me thinking about going vegan. I've done that and didn't really like how my body responded. But one of the indisputable truths and facts that was presented at the end of the film was about the ethical practices of commercial farming and what it does to the environment. Even the most ardent detractors of the film support the notion that our widespread commercial farming practices are a detriment to the environment, stripping the land to create more room for the animals and their feed, as well as stripping the earth of its minerals and ability to absorb and reabsorb the toxins that we produce. That, along with the inhumane treatment of the animals that we feed on without giving a thought to their lives. So, it hit me recently as I was taking Dale, our dog, for a walk, as we do most days. I would go crazy on someone if they tried to tie up Dale in a cage without the ability to move, fatten him up, hook him up to machines to extract what we wanted out of him, and eventually lead him to the slaughter when he was no longer of use to us. And I think most of us would go to the world's end for our pets. So why don't we think about the lives of the animals that we consume? Ground turkey is just ground turkey, right? A steak just appears in the Costco fridge and then in your freezer and eventually in your belly, right? Chickens are here for our use, aren't they? But imagine those animals that we ate. Imagine they had names. Imagine the world wasn't just here for our taking or really destroying, and they were a valuable piece of the ecosystem that provided a way for our farms to produce more nourishing vegetables and the meat that they eventually produced after a quality life without stress and the ability to move freely from pasture to pasture and behave socially like they were designed to behave. They gave us a higher quality product when it was finally time for that was actually healthy for us. There are certain individuals that are cut out for the vegan life. Lynn Janae Recitas, one of our recent guests, stated that only about 14% of the population is genetically designed to do that. I don't believe that I am one of those people, but can I do my best to live consciously, thinking about the animals, their lives, and the end products that I consume on a daily and a weekly basis? Can I do right by the environment and still eat animal products? I believe that I can. I believe that we can, but like everything, if you want to toe the line, you got to work harder to seek out that product. I put it into the universe that this is the next direction in my health journey about 2 months ago. And literally the very next week, my friend Andrew Huberman, the Stanford neuroscientist and one of the smartest men on the planet, and also our second podcast guest ever. You got to check that one out. Fabulous podcast. Put me in touch with Anya Fernald, the co-founder and CEO of Belcampo Meat Company. It's a company and a farm at the base of Mount Shasta, Northern California, that is doing exactly what I was looking for. Anya joins us today to talk about regenerative farming. Some of you may not have heard that term. I didn't really know. I heard sustainable, but regenerative farming, how we can get wins on all fronts, our health, the animal's health, the health of the environment. I really hope you enjoy it. I hope you start thinking consciously about how you're living your life and the choices that you're making and how that affects everything around us, not just everyone around us, but everything around us. Thanks again for the time, family. Hope you have a healthy day. And if you have any suggestions for the podcast, please send them our way. You can DM us at Finding Center Podcast or me. I'm at Nick Hardwick. And of course, there's at hardwick.life. You can DM all of those ones. If you have suggestions or you have guests that you would like to see, please let us know and we'll do our best to reach out for you. Thanks, guys. Have a healthy day. 3, 2, 1. Anya, how are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yes. How are you holding up amidst the coronavirus and the quarantine and the apocalypse and all that?
I've been thriving. There's obviously highs and lows, right? Like in everything, but it's given me a chance to drop in with my kids, be home. I cook a lot, but it's just, I love that. I love cooking. It's also, I travel so much. Typically, I travel usually 2 times a week. I'm in New York, usually once or twice a month.
Wow.
I live in California and I'm in LA. I live in Northern California. I'm in LA, every week at least. So that rhythm, I've read all that stuff and see it like on Instagram about EMFs and travel in your body. And I kind of just said like, whatever, like crazy woo, right? But man, I am like bouncing out of bed in the morning. I do feel a difference in my body.
Wow.
In physical resilience, just not being on planes. And maybe it's also, I'm real careful about what I eat, but gosh, if I'm in an airport and I'm famished, like look at the weird protein box and with the weird egg and the weird cheese. And like I do that. We all do that. And
that's right.
I I just think that stuff's adding up. Like I'm eating my own food. I'm super clean. I took a commitment to myself for quarantine for no alcohol and no TV.
No TV. Wow. That's like complete counterculture because I know everyone's probably just all in on television. We've been doing no TV during the day, but at night I've got an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. And we've been doing like a kind of a filmography of important
Oh,
films
fun.
that they should be
Yeah,
watching.
that's cool.
So we're pushing their boundaries a little bit, like Forrest Gump, maybe a
Uh-huh.
little progressive for their age, but
Yeah,
those kind of classics that we think they need to see.
that's awesome. Yeah, my kids are watching TV. They get
Oh, they
TV.
are.
But I have a 3-year-old, so I can't quite bring him on the cool
Yeah.
movie train. But yeah, I'm not doing, the no TV is for Anya. Like that's just my commitment. But
Yeah.
those things that really help me just kind of, I just feel like in opportunities where you're being pushed, it's to grow from the push, you have to look into the pain.
Oh, I like
And
that.
if you know yourself from the pain, you don't have the growth. So if I want the growth that this time can bring me, I have to look into the pain, you know?
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I'm trying to make myself do that. So when I suffer and I'm feeling anxiety and fear, it's like I try to sit with it and be with it and, not just push it through or ignore it or distract myself.
Yeah,
So
cool. And not numb it with alcohol,
not numb it. That's the
perhaps.
thing. That's like the wine time thing. I mean, I see all these people drinking a lot and it's like, hey, I've been there. I've had times in my life when I drank a lot of wine to handle stressful situations.
Hmm.
Totally been there. And it's like I get it and I have empathy for it. But for me, I'm thinking like, there's no way I'm going to binge eat carbs. There's no way I'm going to binge drink. Like those are going to compromise my immunity. And also, this is a moment where as many punches as there are that knock me down, there's that many punches happening to my competitive set. So I want to go there and
Yeah.
get it.
That's
You
right.
know, like
Yeah, I
I
feel the same way. I find like every single day I'm doing little physical and mental challenges. Like, how long can I not eat today?
Mhm.
Or can I do 25 push-ups every single hour and get my 12 to 15,000 steps in? And like just little tiny challenges along the way. Cause you're right, there's not a whole lot of competing going on right now.
Yeah. And I think if you just decide to meld with your couch, like fine, you'll be okay. Like you'll be
Yeah,
fine. But like this is an opportunity. We're being given an
that's right.
opportunity to become more resilient as a
That's right.
population and as individuals. And if we don't take that opportunity and not ignore it, and that's like for my business 100%. Like I've seen a lot of businesses, restaurant companies just say we're not even going to do it. We're just shutting down and we'll just wait this out. In our case, we have our own farm, right? So I can't shut it down. I've got 3,000 beef that live on our farm that, we can't just sustain forever. So we have a lot of reasons why we're not doing that. But we dove in and we started pushing out food delivery. And now, we're down like 20% against what we were doing before.
Bravo.
And that's with no dining rooms in
Yeah.
6 restaurants that had dining rooms before. So it's like, and we've shut down 3 of the 9 entirely, and then the 6 remaining, one of them is a cloud. It's a group of slightly different concepts among the different restaurants. But wow, 5 weeks in, we're back up to 80% of pre-COVID, and
That's
that's about like
unbelievable.
being like staring down the pain, dealing with initially there was so much paranoia not paranoia, but so much fear in the workforce about are we going to
Yes.
get sick, and we couldn't get protective equipment. So it's like we bought bandanas and gave everybody bandanas, and like that you're making it up as you go. But if you're not resilient and hungry and you just sit this out, I mean, as a business, I'm learning I'm never going to go back to the way it was before. And
No,
not just
yeah,
because,
using wow as a learning opportunity for your whole business.
hell
And then
yeah.
you have to, right? I mean, it just, we have these moments of struggle. And like you said, as a competitor, you're either going to fold up shop or you're going to dig down, you're going to reflect, and you're going to go, okay, I got something to learn here. I got a moment. And look at you, you're back to 80% of pre coronavirus business. But then when you really think about it, what you're doing too is grabbing a larger segment of the market share. So when business does open up, that 80% is a bigger percentage of the market share overall, and people know you and they trust that you're going to be there. You're going to be able to ride the highs and lows, and you're going to just, it's going to go much larger, I would imagine, than 80% when everything opens back up.
That's what I hope that we're earning and, we're delighting and engaging customers for life.
Yeah.
Like that's part of it. Absolutely. I also think we're in a particularly unique moment for what's special about our value proposition to shine.
Right.
Right. So we have our
Yeah.
own supply chain, all domestics right here in California. It's all organic. And wow, like that's really, there's like,
Yeah.
there's this whole, for years, I've been pushing messages on our social channels and stuff. It's like about use the word supply chain, use the word transparency. And, we don't get engagement. Nobody really cares.
It falls on
Right.
deaf ears. Yeah.
And I kind of thought nobody was listening. And then when COVID happens, it's like, man, people start showing up at the stores in bigger numbers, and they're like, of course you guys have eggs, you have your own farm. And I'm, wow, you're paying attention. That's really cool. Right. So it's been nice to feel like that seeding of that message over the years has had a chance to yield fruit,
Yeah. And I guess there's a great sense of urgency now for people to really consider their health and their immunity and what you're putting into your body. And we also have time to be more conscious about what we're doing and think about the way we interact, not only with other people, but with our animals and with our farms and with the environment. I mean, we have an opportunity to go, okay, so I do have a place in this world and it's important, and the decisions that I'm making are also important. So let me ask you this. I'm sure people know and have heard of sustainable practices, but if you will, tell me about regenerative farming, because I don't think a lot of people
Yeah.
even have thought that far yet.
Yeah. So regenerative refers to farming that's actively increasing the fertility and viability of the earth. So I think of it like sustainable is just like we whole even. Conventional is you're cratering it, right?
Okay, yes.
Conventional is you spend all the money in the bank account, and when your plan when you run out of money is that you're going to get another job. Okay.
Right.
Sustainable is like you spend what you earn.
Yes,
Regenerative
you're
is,
breaking even.
yeah, you're breaking even,
Okay.
but you're not going under. And then your regenerative is like that every month you got a little bit more in the account and you're building. Right. So
Yeah.
regenerative, like from a purely like tactical perspective, one of the key metrics that we use in agriculture in our farm is the organic matter in the soil. So the amount of actual vegetal based matter is in the soil. And so regenerative agriculture, we're actually increasing the amount of organic matter in the soil, which means that it's more fertile. So it as a home gardener, I imagine, like when you add compost to the soil, you get better tomatoes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
In a bigger farming context, you don't add compost per se. But what we do is we let our animals roam in natural herds, and they deposit their manure, which is based on grass. All of our beef and lamb are 100% grass fed and finished, in addition to being certified humane and certified organic. So they're basically like giant mulch machines. They're eating all this grass, dumping it onto the fields, but in a low density way. If you have a lot of manure in a big, dense confinement, I mean, think about it. My son pees in the yard all the time, right?
Oh yeah.
It's fine.
Kills
My
it.
yard does not smell like urine. He pees somewhere one day and pees in, but if he peed in one bucket every day, that bucket would smell really gross, right?
Yeah.
So you get that same thing with agriculture. People see these lagoons of pee and poo from animals, and you see them in the Southeast, like these disgusting overhead images of like these giant pink lagoons.
Oh yeah.
That's equivalent of like you just pee in one bucket all the time. So manure in and of itself is not bad for the environment. Manure and urine all in one place is bad for the environment. So
Gotcha.
when you put it in small volumes spread out, it actually increases the organic matter density in the soil and increases soil health.
Wow.
The cool thing too, in our farm, 5 years in, we've been testing positive for being carbon sequestering. So we actually are sequestering carbon from the environment. So our soil.
So absorbing it, bringing it in, like we think of trees as doing that, or rainforests as doing that. This didn't hit me till I watched, there was like a Nat Geo show in the middle of Africa or something, and they were on what they thought was supposed to be a river, but it was actually like moist. It was just this sponge of grassland that they said if that ended up going away, that I forget what percentage of the Earth's carbon was going to be released back into the environment. And I thought, I never had thought of soil and grassland as being carbon, as you say, sequestering. I mean, that's a fascinating concept that I don't think a lot of people have thought of.
No, I mean, think about it. Grass, like above the ground, is a farm. It can be 16 inches about, but under the earth, it's 30 feet of root systems.
30 feet.
Huh?
And that's just grass.
Perennial grass. So perennial that reseeds naturally every year. So if you till it, if you mow it up and you
Yep.
break the root systems with a plow, right? And those knives go in and churn it all up, you
Yeah.
release carbon in that process and you break the root systems and the plants die and then you plant new plants. That's how modern agriculture works. And that's extractive because every year you have to replenish what you took out because
Right.
actually making the crop takes a ton of energy. So producing the seed pod on the grass takes a lot of energy from the earth. So if you just, after that seed pod has that, if you just take all the organic matter, churn it up and then plant new seeds, that's extractive. So the way that we're farming most, and then we do have some irrigated, we do till some, so we're not 100% on this style because it's very land intensive. You need a lot of acres to do it this way. But we're actually letting the crops naturally reseed with perennial grasses. And then those root systems are 30 feet underground. That's why they're sequestering carbon.
Wow. But it also, I mean, on the farm, based on reading on the website and everything, it also affects the ecosystem, not just the giant Earth's ecosystem, but like the ecosystem around there and the river and the salmon. And
Totally.
it
Yeah.
has an effect that just kind of spider webs out.
Yeah. Like you see a lot of frogs, right? And then because there's a lot of frogs, there's a lot of hawks and eagles, right? So it's all connected because then you have a lot of mice and then predators. So there's the other cool thing about where we farm is that we back up against state park land. So right, the whole, I'm not sure if you're familiar with California, but the whole Trinity Alps, we're right contiguous, or we share borders with the northern part of state land adjacent to that. So there's lots of wildlife. You see bald eagles, you see bears, mountain lions up on the farm.
Oh, wow. And they
It's
come because they know the land's healthy, because there's things for them to eat there.
yeah.
I mean, not the
Nutrition.
cattle, not the lamb, not the hogs, but like other sources of life.
Conventional agriculture, there's kind of two big areas of concern. The first is you're being extractive about nutrition, right? You're taking energy from the earth, producing the tomatoes, the broccoli, the melons, cutting them, shipping them somewhere, and then tilling everything under, adding nitrogen. You add fertilizer to pump up the soil. But it's kind of like drinking coffee. It's not like a sustainable long-term shift, right? Or maybe
I just quit coffee.
Yeah. Okay. I was just, but like it's like you're plumping up, right? But it's not like you're changing your anatomy to be more awake. It's like the difference between drinking coffee and getting sleep, right?
Yes.
Like one's not a substitute for the other in the long term. You can solve for today, but if you're looking at next month, you gotta get your sleep, right? You can't just be like, my plan is to go down to 4 hours a night of sleep and just drink a lot of coffee for the next 2 weeks. People will be like, you're crazy. That's what you're doing with conventional ag. So that's one area. The second area of concern with conventional ag is you actually have to use these monocultures rely on toxic chemicals to kill pests. Okay, so I think of it as like it's a Ferrari type of agriculture. It's going to go really fast and really big. It's going to go max velocity, but it can only go on a very smooth road. So monoculture crops need to have nothing, no bumps, no pests, fine soil, consistent water, certain weather conditions, and then they grow 10 times as fast as everybody else, right? But you have to really nail the conditions. So you really can't be messing around with having a lot of pests. So a lot of a lot of the customer conversation, consumer conversation around conventional ag has been around these crops and the pesticide crop interaction. Now, let's look at what those pesticides do. This is getting back to your question of wildlife. Pesticides that kill pests, the way that they do that is they don't some of them just kill them dead on the spot, but primarily they interact with the animal's endocrine and related reproductive function. So what they're doing is messing with fertility. And when you mess with fertility, that's why I personally think there's a massive connection between toxic chemicals used in agriculture and the major fertility issues we have in the United States broadly, right?
As humans.
Yeah, we share a ton of our DNA with these animals, and these chemicals are designed to mess with fertility and break the life cycle so that the frogs become sterile, the bugs become sterile. So the thing is that you can't really dial it where you're like, oh, there's one weevil that loves broccoli, so let's just spray that one weevil on the broccoli field. No, you use what's called a broadband pesticide, right? Broadband means it kills everything that's in the insect category, you know. So there's and it has been shown that the frogs and birds that eat those insects then have their own endocrine and reproductive disorders, right? So when you see a lot more wildlife, you're just in general not going to see a lot in more conventional farms because there's not that much stuff to eat because the fertility of those animals all messed up. So there's really like, there might be a few adults around, but they're not reproducing.
Wow. Yeah, that's fascinating to think about. It never even, I mean, if you don't grow up on a farm, if you're not in the industry, you wouldn't even think of kind of the effects really of the pesticides and how that works. And this is a little bit off topic from what Belcampo, because Belcampo does a lot of meat products and animal-based products. But when we were talking about monocropping, is there a regenerative form of produce, or is regenerative farming more geared towards animals?
Absolutely, there's regenerative approach to produce. There is not a regenerative approach to monocropping, unfortunately.
Right.
Okay, so the produce regenerative farm will do things called crop rotation, and they'll typically mix animals in with that. So they might put pumpkins in one patch one year, tomatoes there the next year, and then sheep there the year after. Okay. Now, if you like, I'm a passionate gardener at home, and like I'll never plant my tomatoes in the same raised bed 2 years running. My daughter's going to say hello. Thank you.
All right.
So you'll never plant, the same crop in the same box 2 years in a row. Honey, please, good. Thank you. And because whatever pests you have are more likely to recycle there. So you're more likely to get mold or fungal on your tomatoes if you are planting them in the same place. So you want to break the pest cycle, and you can do that naturally by rotating.
Gotcha.
And then the other thing you get when you rotate is that different crops have different nutrient needs. Tomatoes need a lot of nitrogen, and then other crops don't need as much as nitrogen. So if I put, tomatoes in one year, I'll probably put fava beans in the next because those are actually contributing to nitrogen in the soil, and they thrive on other nutrients. So that's the regenerative thinking. You're thinking on a 5-year time frame, right? And you're thinking, what's going to leave the soil better than I found it? Now, animals are, in kind of traditional thinking, animals are part of every regenerative farm. That's why this whole idea from the vegan community that you can just subtract animals from the equation and everything's healthier is a complete fallacy. Yeah. Because animals actually are the ultimate recycler. Now, whether or not you want to kill and eat those animals, that's another ethical question that I think has a lot more validity in the vegan argument. But the actual role of animals in the agricultural ecosystem is paramount because they take low value forage and convert it into high nitrogen soil improvement.
But is that only if done properly?
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
So only if the animals are raised on the farm properly, if they're doing actual regenerative practice. Because I just relocated from Southern California up to Indiana, and I saw some of the mass cattle farms where they were just locked in. On my way up, it was like Northwest Texas, Southwest Oklahoma, Southwest Kansas. And I just looked over and I was like, God, that sucks. Like for those cattle, that just absolutely sucks.
And also, so two big issues on why those farms are toxic. Density is terrible. You have a 15 square foot cubic cement line space for every beef. 15 square feet is not very much, right?
Especially for a big animal.
Yeah, a 2,000 pound animal sometimes, like a tiny, but more importantly, they're being fed a very maladaptive diet. So it's like, think about you, Nick, if you were to get if you're like, okay, it's quarantine, I'm just going to get Walmart to deliver enough Cheetos for me to have for the entire month.
Sounds like my freshman year of college.
That's right. But that's what's happening. You're taking a very poor quality nutrition, and it's and you and your wife might be like, "This is so great. It doesn't go bad. We can just have it whenever we want." And then, oh my God, I'm feeling sick. I can't move. I'm delirious. Right? That's day 5 or day 6. So when you have cows have 5 stomachs. Why do they have 5 stomachs? Because they evolved to eat low nutrient density food and processed stuff with tons of roughage in it. That doesn't sound like corn to me.
And to be able to extract it. So it takes all the stomachs to be able to get what
Yeah.
they need out
Make
of,
it,
yeah.
you and me, we're monogastric, just like pigs and chickens. Okay. Other monogastric animals. Monogastric animals are lots of carnivores, right? Because we are, but also animals that are evolved to eat nutrient dense food. Monogastric animals eat things like seeds and meat, that they thrive on. They can thrive on those and process those. Animals with multiple stomachs are taking roughage and converting it to, you and I would die on grass, right?
Yeah.
Any monogastric animal will die on grass. That's like sometimes in fancy restaurants, they'll be like, it's a grass-fed pig. Not a thing. But like a pig and a chicken would die on grass. So you can feed them like pumpkins and they can thrive, or apples or acorns. They can do okay on seeds, right? Pigs can. They don't have to be like on corn. But beef are designed and evolved to eat low nutrient density food. You put them in the feedlots, they don't move, and then they're fed the equivalent of that truckload of Fritos or Cheetos, like a highly processed corn. And not just corn, they're also fed food waste. So you can feed legally, you can feed broken candy. So like you can Google this, Skittles and cow feed. So if Skittles don't pass muster on the quality control scanner, they have like digital photometers that measure if the Skittles, as they're going past the machine, if they've got cracks or damages. The ones that don't make the cut are electronically selected out of the batch, and those ones can go into cow feed. So they're fed highly refined sugar, for example. They're also fed sawdust and plastic shavings with BPAs in them as a fiber supplement, because they get so sick to their stomachs eating corn that they have to be supplemented with fiber.
Oh.
And sawdust and plastic shavings are the cheapest supplements to do that. So that the reason it smells so bad, first off, is confinement. Second, it's that they're eating really bad food for them, and they have diarrhea and stomach upset. So they are, when cows have E. coli, right? You know, E. coli is something, before coronavirus, we talked about it a lot.
That's right.
That's
E. coli used
to be a thing. You might remember from before March, people get concerned about E. coli. Now they're just like, oh, E. coli, that's cool. Whatever, as long as it's coronavirus. But E. coli it makes cows vomit and have diarrhea in the same way it does humans, and it can kill cows. It's not like it's part of their ecosystem. The reason E. coli is so endemic in the American beef herd is that they're on such a poor diet that they get sick all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. And then you talked about the BPAs taken in the plastic and then just obviously absorbing all that and giving it to us through the dairy or through the meat that they're providing us. And
that's why I always say, if you're going to eat organs, like if every once in a while you got to eat a ribeye off the conventional chain, whatever, but never eat marrow from conventional animals. Never eat liver.
Okay.
And really avoid bone marrow, bone broth as well from conventional, because toxicity in those animals lives in those animals' bodies are filtering. And so their organ meats are going to be where a lot of that accumulates.
Oh, wow. That's great advice. Give me a day in the life of the animals on your farm.
So we focus on 3 major areas in life in terms of how it aligns with evolution. So I'll surprise to say that the vision is to make it as similar to an evolutionary perspective or diet as possible. So that is in food, right? The type of food that they're fed, how they mate, and how they raise their young. Those are really the key things. So with food, a key aspect is that they're fed, for our beef, for our ruminant species, they are fed free range. They're allowed not just like access to pasture, but they're actually out in the pasture and there's no other food provided. So they eat, all their calories come from grass throughout their whole lives. They're not finished on barley or anything else. And people who say, oh, it's cool, there's just 2 weeks of barley, completely call bullshit on that. There's great data out of Chico State, a good agricultural college here in the US, that shows that you've got massive changes in omega-3 to omega-6 profiles in the final even 6 days on grain, changes the fat ratio in the animals. So from a human health perspective, absolutely not the same thing as grass-fed and finished. Full grass is crucial for quality, for health, for human health, and for the animal's health. So in the case of beef, the diet takes the place of, in that case, it's all free range grasses. In terms of mating, we're using natural mating. So we're putting bulls in with the cows. And then in terms of animal, like how they rear their young, they are weaned at a very late age, and they're weaned naturally. So there's no like rough separation from the mom at a premature age. They're allowed, so even after they are weaned, they're still connected. They can't nurse from the mom, but they can, there's just there's a fence dividing them, but they can still touch noses and smell their mom and engage with their mom.
Gotcha. To keep stress
They're
low.
Low stress, low cortisol. Yeah. And the same thing goes for for our monogastric animals. So in the case of like a day, the other thing is that they only interact with a few humans, and they're the same humans throughout their lifespan. So, and they're actually the same humans that take them to our own slaughterhouse, which is located right down the road from our farm.
Are they aware that they're going to the slaughter? Because I would have, like, when I was driving by those big farms on my way to Indiana, I just kept thinking, like, these animals have to know what they're doing. But then on your farm, I was thinking, maybe they don't. Maybe it's like a nice kind of, I don't want to call it peaceful, but I have to imagine it's
I
way
don't
more
think there's
humane.
any awareness. I mean, the other thing is that remember that many animals at processing in slaughterhouses, this is one of the key tenets of our operation, is that they're tracked 20 minutes and then they're processed immediately upon arrival. In conventional pork operations, I don't know so about cattle on this because cattle are hard to contain, but for pork, they're trucked for 5 days typically, and then they're kept in pens outside of the slaughterhouse for multiple days.
Yeah.
So they can hear and smell
Oh,
what's
yeah.
happening. Right.
And which, when you talked about like the barley finish, it's the same kind of thing. Like you're with there for a week, 2 weeks, whatever it may be. Like you're just firing off as an animal, like your inflammatory response, your stress response, you're just flooding your body with all of those toxins.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting. Those have really big impacts on meat quality, those toxins. I mean, those cortisol responses, that's actually been the biggest shifts in the cattle industry have been because cortisol right around death will cause deep spots and dark marks in the meat.
Oh, no kidding.
So that's been the cattle industry, the conventional cattle industry gets lauded for like, there've been such big improvements with Temple Grandin and stuff. It's like, yeah, it's because they've reduced their waste value. So now there's some of the handling processes right before death are definitely much less stress. But I do think that there's less like dramatic signs in meat of low level lifelong stress. Right. But then there is stress right before slaughter has very specific signs. Pork has big black flashes in it, like almost like bruises inside the meat.
Okay.
And beef will get large, almost blood stains inside the meat. That's high stress death. But for a high stress, longer term event of their life, of their 16 or so months before death, there's fewer physical signs of that are so dramatic. So my theory is that although we've made slaughter somewhat less stressful because of these really strong signs in the meat, that long-term impact of stress during the life of the animal definitely has nutritional impacts as well as just like micronutrient impacts, right? In terms of the flavor and piece of the product. Another big factor in this is that on our farm, our chickens are raised typically between 8 and 10 weeks, depending on the breed. And in Tyson, they're 2.5 weeks. And so there's that speed of growth. Our beef are processed at 25 months and conventionals around 16 months. But conventional animals are bigger at 16 months and our beef are at 25, 26 months.
Yeah. It's
and
like overinflated. It's like a bodybuilder just going and getting a bunch of hypertrophy and building kind of bad muscle.
You really do taste it. It's something that I've definitely developed a taste of it doing a lot of comparative tastings of our products. And we're not the only one doing this. There's a lot of awesome regenerative livestock farms in America, to be clear. But to taste products like ours compared to conventional, you'll actually get a solubility difference. The fast growing muscle fiber tend to be kind of like ropey and not very soluble. And it'll, like, if you're chewing it and it dissolves on your palate, you'll get this like very light finish. There's no like grains of protein that remain on your tongue. And so it's a finer grain, it's denser, and then it has a very high solubility. So anytime you're especially like chicken breast, if you taste that and you're kind of chewing it and it's like, what is this thing that's left there? It's like, you know what I'm talking about? Like the kind of almost sawdusty, gross thing.
Oh yeah.
That's fast growing protein.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Tell me, how many animals do you have on the farm at any given time? And like in a year, say, how many families could you feed, or how many mouths could you feed based on what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so we have 3,000 beef, about 2,000 lamb, about the same number of pigs, and then we're processing or producing in a year around 50,000 chickens. And I don't know that what that translates into, but we process about 1,000 beef a year currently. So that's in 2020. So it's not a small operation.
Right.
And we're not planning on, I want to expand a lot. I want to build Belcampo to be much larger in terms of the throughput and the volume, but not by just processing or growing, buying more acreage and building and building and building in our footprint. I would like to work via a network of partner farms and take farms that are practicing regenerative agriculture or kind of on the cusp or doing some elements of regenerative, take them the whole way with regenerative practices, and then be their marketing arm.
Oh, that's fantastic. So that kind of leads me to one of my next questions. And I guess the big question that I have about regenerative farming is what, where you have 7 billion people on the planet or something like that. If all farms were to shift to regenerative farming and this were to become a really widespread technique, would we have enough food to feed everybody? Is it possible that all farms become regenerative?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's totally achievable. Not in the pattern we have currently, though, Nick. You know, about half of the meat that we produce in America is thrown away as food waste.
Yeah.
So we like raise
Instead of
animals.
eating from nose to tail, we're just take this.
Well, it's like nose to tail would be that's like the cherry on the cake or the sundae, right? Like it's like you actually nose to tail is the next level. I'm talking about like half of the meat that we produce. I've seen different statistics. I've seen everything from like 35 to 55% goes right from the package to some buffet and then into the garbage.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that, like institutional service and wastage. And so that's the question for me. It's like, would we waste this food? So we've done an amazing job in America at making beef and meat incredibly cheap. Awesome. Congratulations. But now it's so cheap that it's perceived as worthless. So what if we farm it regeneratively?
You can just throw it away. Yeah.
I don't see truffles getting wasted in America.
Right. Yeah. People aren't throwing out $100.
Getting wasted in America. You know, like nobody's like, oh yeah, just throw out that Parmesan cheese that you paid $30 a pound for. You pay for it, you watch it, right? Yeah. And so we've gotten this really kind of blasé attitude where I was like, oh, whatever, it's $3.99 a pound, like who cares? So I'm convinced that if we were to raise things regeneratively, charge a real price for them, then we would have less of a food waste problem, and then our needs. So let's just say we land in the middle of the range that I've seen of food waste numbers, we would need, if we were using the meat that we produce now, we would need half as much.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
Like that's bananas.
It's crazy.
And so
I'd never even thought of it that way. That's a great way to think about it. It's like we have to value properly the meat that we do have and are producing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like saying, hey, in the future, could we all have a car? And I'll say, sure. In every 7 billion of us, could we all? Yeah, great. Could we all have a Hummer? Absolutely not.
Right.
Right. Like, so this current model that we have, this super resource intensive, really wasteful model that we've got, can that continue? But if we were able to make some shifts in how we use the product and to be less wasteful, totally.
Yeah. And probably too, how we consume it. So not only the waste, but also the quantities that we're consuming, because you talked about the $3.99 a pound. It's like, well, give me 2 pounds. How much can I afford here? And I'll just eat it all because I don't have to stop eating. But it's like, you don't need that much meat. 4 to 6 ounces a day and we're good here, people. Like we don't have to go 14. We don't have to go giant porterhouse, although sometimes it's super fun. Yeah, I know. Sometimes it's super fun.
Some days I do a little more than that.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. I mean, I'm 230 pounds. So to maintain this, you need a little bit more. I get it, but it's like, we don't have to always.
Like, what parts are you eating? So in my case, like I don't even enjoy steak that much anymore. I very rarely cook. I cook steak for take pictures for Instagram. That's about it. But like,
Totally.
I'll love cooking like picanhas and flat irons and tri-tips. Like that's more my jam.
Cool.
High flavor, these sort of flat meats, these leaner, high flavor muscle
Yeah.
meats. But then I also supplement that with, I love eating liver. I keep marrow bones in my freezer all the time. My kids and I love eating marrow bones. So it's also like eating a diversity of types of animal protein. And then I eat bone broth almost every day. And find that that's really magical for my health. And I braise a lot. And so it's like, that's to your earlier point about whole animal and nose to tail. You get a lot more health benefits out of the animal if you eat a broader range of what the animal has to offer. And then you also get away with, I have in a single sitting eaten a pound of liver, but it wasn't like a smart move. But I can eat a pound of liver of chicken breast, no problem, like for lunch, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not that much meat actually. But if you get into these more like high nutritional value things, you're going to be a quarter pound of liver, you're set. That's plenty. That's all you want to eat. So some of the benefits of nose to tail is that it's more complex. It hits more buttons on your satiety as well, because you hit more like micronutrient satiety, and your body at a certain point is like, I actually don't want any more iron. This tastes great, but this is enough of this, right? So whereas with the lean proteins, with the lean muscle meats, there's less of a gating mechanism on your satiety, because you kind of keep chowing on it, because there's less like micronutrient diversity and availability there.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, your body's looking for more of those. It's like, I need more of this, more concentration or whatever you're giving me, because you haven't given me enough of the things that I'm looking for. Talk about that. The health.
Too, I got to bring up, which is something I've been thinking about lately, is part of the reason why we eat so much meat is that we become so fixated on lean meat.
Yes.
Think about it, how much plain chicken breast one can eat compared to eating like chicken thighs with a skin on, with the fat.
Right.
Like the fact that we continually opt for these super lean cuts because we feel like they're healthier, that also does lead to overconsumption.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true. And the fat also leads to the satiety. So you feel like, okay, I've gotten enough. It triggers those hormones in your body. The interruption once again. So while you're waiting this out at home with us, you can still have some fun betting online. Check out my friends at betonline.com. How long do you want to bet this COVID-19 quarantine lasts? I don't know, a month, 45 days, 60 days. What are we looking at? I know no March Madness or any of your leagues, but betonline.com still has hundreds of places to wager. Their online casino with poker and blackjack, and sports aren't totally done. There's still mixed martial arts, American Idol, the elections, the spelling bee, Nathan's hot dog eating contest. There's still fun to be had. So go to betonline.com. Use the promo code MyPod100. That's MyPod, P-O-D 100, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's right. For our listeners, 50% off with the promo code MyPod100. BetOnline.com. The fun never ends. Tell me about the other health benefits. You've got the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. You got the antioxidants. You got the linoleic acid. You got the vitamins and minerals. You got the antioxidants. People don't even think about when they're eating a cut of meat that they could potentially be getting vitamins. You think of minerals, but you don't really think of vitamins.
Glutathione too. The master.
Which is fantastic for a lot of things. I talked to a lot of brain doctors, and brain doctors will tell you glutathione can give you some good brain reserve in case you happen to hit your head or post head trauma. Like glutathione is the one.
Yeah, its micronutrient profile is amazing on meats. And that's also something that has been shown to be higher in free range meats. All that good mojo is higher in the free range products. But you're looking at vitamin B, vitamin K, niacin, zinc, iron. Those are the really key ones. And then also, of course, lots of protein, and not just the actual protein of the lean muscle fibers is one thing, but collagen protein has been increasingly getting a lot of attention in the health world, because it's so great for joint health and gut health. And that's something that only comes from animals and comes from their joints and their stomach lining, right? And their skin and hides. So those are some other, parts of it. I do think that collagen is such a magical product, and people have had it's probably the product in my repertoire at Belcampo where we have more testimonials from people using our bone broth than any other product. You know, like people are using, eating our pork. They're like, wow, my recipes taste so much better. But
Right.
bone broth, the people who are like, oh my God, like I had Crohn's disease and now I can eat whatever because I started using your product. And of course there are ways to get collagen. A lot of people supplement with collagen, and that collagen, there's a number of different types of collagen, and animals have them all together. But when you're taking a supplement, you should be cautious about which type you are taking, and also know that it's all extracted from animal hides. So I think that collagen that's naturally available in bone broth, which is just a broth made exclusively from bones, right? And so in our case, it's about 5 pounds of bones are cooked for a full day to create 1 quart of bone broth. And bone broth, the liquid just slowly extracts the collagen that's naturally in the bones. In human fetuses and in all animal fetuses, bones are actually constructed in the body first by a matrix of collagen that then calcifies. That's actually how in utero bones develop in babies. And it's the same with cows. And so actually throughout the bone, there is residual collagen in the bone itself, plus a lot of collagen that makes up all the connective tissues and muscular sheaths and things in the joint. So you extract that out by boiling it very low and slow for many hours. I think that collagen, having taken supplementation of collagen plus done lots of bone broth, I get more of an instant result in terms of gut soothing from the collagen that's in its bioavailable form. And I think it's kind of like everything. Taking a vitamin C pill is great, but eating an orange in some cases may be better. You know, when you get things in a natural bioavailable format, there's a little more to it in terms of your body's ability to absorb it.
Tell me about this, because you were talking about the challenges of kind of the way the system is set up now with going regenerative farming and us with a lot of the product waste and everything. But tell me about, like, I mean, one of the main issues I would imagine is like the government and the incentive programs for commercial farming, the way like standard farming, like, is there any incentive that the government is laying out there for more farms to come open like Belcampo?
No.
No, nothing. Is there any discussion for
I
it to
started
head that
thinking,
way?
my mind went to like our PPE loans that we're getting because of coronavirus. We applied for, we didn't get it in the first round. I'm like, the government. So I just got a little cortisol spike myself right there. So yeah, there's no incentive for farms like ours. And it's like the conventional operations, the conventional beef industry gets plenty of incentives. They get incentives. I don't have my coffee, so I'm going to go with some chaga. So, you know,
Nice. What is that? What else did you have? Did you have honey in there? Is that a honey stick, or is that just a,
no,
oh,
I'm just
cool.
going to chaga with
I
the
see you.
dropper.
I have chaga every day, every morning as well.
In COVID, this has been my jam. I feel like it's chaga, Shilajit, and then the colloidal silver in my eyes and sometimes in my nose is amazing too. But this stuff makes me feel great. Do you do that? I have this thing with supplements where I feel like this is really woo, but I'll kind of just like look at them in the morning and be like, which is this appealing? Because I have them all set up. I love it. And the one that this has been like in the COVID time, this has been, because it's been a grind, you know, I've been working a ton. And I feel like this, I don't even know really what chaga does, but it makes me feel great. What does it do?
It's super good. It's super good for you. I think I had a doctor on, David Hazy's his name, and he works a lot with like treating dementia and Alzheimer's and everything.
Yeah.
He said, and I don't want to misquote him, but it was something like 3 servings of mushrooms per week can reduce the risk of Alzheimer's and dementia by up to 50%. And it may be more than 50%. So
any types of mushrooms or?
Any type of mushroom.
Wow.
So he's like, when kind of asked about his recommendation for health, he's like, eat the rainbow, but don't skip brown, because you need mushrooms in your diet. Mushrooms are super powerful. So yeah, I try to have some type of mushroom all the time. So
one of my favorite dishes is steak and eggs with like sauteed mushrooms. I love to cook my steak in its own tallow and render out tallow and then cook the mushrooms in the beef fat.
Yes.
Eggs and the beef fat. That's the best combination, like the umami. Especially with grass-fed meat, mushrooms really play well. You know, finish them with some vinegar, and it's so good. So I got distracted. Chaga and recipes. We were talking before about something else completely different. Oh, the government. Yeah, so the government,
the government
has been, you know, in the subsidy programs that are available for beef farmers there are some that are specifically for beef farmers that have to do with cow-calf operations. But the biggest form of subsidy is that there are 8 crops in the United States that are receiving federal subsidies. Those 8 crops are, I might get them all, corn, wheat, oats, cotton, soy, and then barley, and then a couple others, right? So they're all like grain crops.
Okay.
But you don't get subsidies if you grow broccoli. You don't get subsidies if you grow kale. I think canola as well is another subsidy crop. And I'm remembering the rest of them, canola that's used for rapeseed oil and canola oil.
Gotcha.
So those are, it's really like corn, wheat, soy. Those are the crops. So the crops that are not exactly like the pillars of human health are the ones, but it aligns with the American triangle for diet, right?
Sure.
What they're trying to say is great for us to eat a ton of is the same stuff that they're subsidizing. It's like, let's eat a lot of seeds, right? That are high in carbohydrates and higher in sugar reserves, right? For the plant that's eventually going to grow, high in omega-6s. So, you know, the bioavailability of the American diet is 1 to 30 of omega-3s to omega-6s of just like what's produced. And then the human diet's 1 to 1. And what's in free range beef is 1 to 1. But the issue with the subsidy system is that they're only subsidizing, there are basically 7 of them are cereal or oil crops, and then there's cotton, and rice is another one. I'm moving them all slowly. Now all those crops, you basically get like, let's just say it's like 30 to 60% of your cost for production reimbursed to you. So
gotcha.
If I am growing, you know, if you think about it, if you're producing beef in the feedlot, you've got to like put up the walls and pour the cement and pipe the water and then run the ventilation systems, run the waste systems. You then have to grow all the corn with fertilizers. You have to take tractors to plant it, tractors to harvest it. It has to be baled and then has to then be, you know, actually cleaned and winnowed. It's got to be trucked to the feedlot, and the human has to take that bag and dump it into the thing. So that all costs much less in America than putting a cow out on a grass field and letting it eat.
Because of the subsidies.
Yeah. That's what's crazy about it. It's like that whole system is so much more resource intensive, but it costs less.
Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. And it's hurting us more overall. Yeah, it's hurting us more. Okay, last one. Let's make it one special one and then one last one to where people can learn more. But if you had a motto, what would it be?
Oh.
Or if you could change a law, what would it be?
A motto. I mean, I'd say I'm very much a like go for it, take the risk, dive in, seize the day kind of energy. So that would be, so my motto would be in that general area. Changing a law would absolutely be. Actually, there's my motto. I have it on my wall.
Perfect.
Start with yes.
That's hard to do, right? For a lot of people, the immediate reaction is no.
Yeah, I forgot.
It's always no.
Yeah, no, that's like in my business. That's been one of the cool things about COVID is that like a lot of inertia stopped because a lot of people went like, oh, not possible. Oh, not possible. Oh, we totally can't do that. You know. And then when stuff really hit the fan and we had to pivot really quickly, it's like all these no's evaporated. And people aren't trying to hurt you by saying no. They're trying to manage expectations. There's a bunch of different nice words that they put around it. You know, I want to manage expectations. I want to make sure that I can deliver on what I promise. It's like, yeah, but you're still saying no all the time to things that could potentially be yeses, you know? Yep. So, and also in customer service, starting with the yes is the number one piece of advice. You know, if you want customers to feel happy, whatever they ask you, be like, yes, I can do that. And then maybe it's not right now or not exactly what they thought, but like, yes, I'm going to make my best effort, you know?
Yes, we are working towards that.
Yeah, exactly. That is the end state.
Right. Where can people learn more?
BelCampo.com, or even better, our Instagram account, which is BelCampo Meat Co. And then my personal account is Anya Fernald. But I encourage you to go to the BelCampo Meat Co. account. We link to all of our e-com items there, and you can find out about the farm. We do, in this time in COVID, we're doing lots of IGTV content all about the actual farm. So you can see the farm, the animals. It's a pretty chill place to hang out. So I like our IG feed.
Super cool. Well, thank you so much for the time. This has been a fantastic learning experience, and hopefully it's got me started down a path that I want to continue down, and hopefully our listeners start thinking more consciously in this direction of where they're sourcing their meats. And I think you gave some tremendous thoughts out there that people can grab onto and start thinking slightly different about the way they're approaching eating and consuming and really just living in the world. So Anya, Fernald, thank you so much. This was fabulous.
I appreciate your time, man.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.